Hello and welcome. I am Ellie Richardson and you are watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The United States and India have agreed on a trade deal after a phone call between President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Modi. The US will lower tariffs on Indian imports to 18%, while India agrees to reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers on the US goods to zero and stop buying Russian oil. President Donald Trump warned that bad things could follow if Iran fails to reach a deal with the US, as pressure mounts after Tehran's January protest crackdown. Former US President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in a congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, days before a planned vote on holding them in contempt. The couple denied wrongdoing and said they've already shared all they know. A US federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status for more than 350,000 Haitians, halting potential deportations amid Haiti's escalating gang violence. Meanwhile, US District Judge Anna Reyes claims that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem acted with hostility towards non-white immigrants. The US Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has announced that all DHS field officers in Minneapolis will be issued body-worn cameras, a move backed by President Donald Trump as a step towards transparency, as the Justice Department also now conducts a civil rights investigation into Preeti's death. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said engagement with China makes us stronger following his visit, but stressed the UK is clear-eyed about security threats from Beijing and that protecting national security is a non-negotiable. The European Union, headed by Anna Pierce, head of the Middle East and North Africa Bilateral Instruments Unit for Syria and the Middle East, held talks with the Syrian Director of the International Cooperation Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ex-Parties, as they explored ways to expand cooperation. OpenAI has explored alternatives to NVIDIA's AI chips, citing speed limits in interference tasks like coding. While NVIDIA remains dominant in training chips, the move could test its AI leadership as talks between the two companies continue. And for your top story this hour, the Kremlin says it has received no official communication from India regarding reports that New Delhi may halt purchases of Russian oil. The statement comes after US President Donald Trump commented on India's energy ties with Moscow. Kremlin officials stressed that Russia's strategic partnership with India remains extremely important and said Moscow intends to continue developing bilateral relations. Now, let's listen in to an audio statement by the Kremlin spokesperson.
Нет, очень внимательно отслеживаем все новости на этот счет. Разумеется, мы очень внимательно относимся к заявлениям президента Трампа. Мы их тщательно фиксируем, анализируем. И мы с уважением относимся к двусторонним американо-индийским отношениям. Но не меньшее значение мы придаем развитию нашего продвинутого стратегического партнерства с Индией, между Россией и Индией. Для нас это самое важное, и мы намерены дальше всемирно развивать наши двусторонние отношения с Дэнни.
We are now being joined by Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya, who's an economist and policy expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. If India reduces or stops buying Russian oil, does that mean a real change in its foreign policy, or is it just responding to US pressure while trying to protect its interests?
Officially there has been no statement from the government of India saying that it has reduced the purchase of oils. In fact, there is being an official statement which actually says that India will continue to purchase oil from non-sanctioned countries, and Russia is not a sanctioned country for purchase of oil, and therefore it basically indicates that officially India will exercise its options to purchase oil from wherever it finds convenient. And therefore, there is no official statement from India saying that it will not purchase oil from Russia. The existing statements is actually points to the contrary, that it will continue to purchase oil from Russia and elsewhere, wherever there is no sanctions, and follow the rule-based order that governs the world.
You just touched on it, there's no official statements from India. Do you think they're staying quiet to balance relations between the US and Russia?
I'm sorry, there was a connectivity problem and I missed your question. If you could repeat it.
No, that's all right. So there hasn't been an official statement from India as of yet, as you just mentioned. But do you think they're trying to stay quiet on it to balance relations between the US and Russia?
But that has been the hallmark of India. India's from the Minister of External Affairs perspective and the Indian diplomatic perspective, India has never gone overboard or resorted to very high decibel noise. It has conducted its diplomacy in a quite statesmanly manner. That has been the hallmark with Bangladesh, with Maldives, with US, and with everybody else. And hence, India has always stayed quiet on issues which needs to be discussed behind closed doors bilaterally. India has not gone out in public on these matters. I'm sure India is discussing these issues behind closed doors, but publicly there hasn't been a statement, and as per precedents, we don't expect a statement from India on these matters.
How important is the oil trade to the India-Russia partnership? And would cutting back on energy purchases seriously damage their long-term relationship?
I'm really sorry, there seems to be a connectivity problem and I'm missing your question. If you don't mind repeating it.
No worries at all. We will come back to you in just a moment. Indian stock markets, Nifty 50 and BSE Sensex are soaring up in opening trade, reacting positively to the India-US trade deal announcement by US President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. While Nifty 50 went above 25,800, BSE Sensex surged over 2,300 points. Meanwhile, US stocks finished higher on the 2nd of February. Gains were led by artificial intelligence and semiconductors stocks, while small cap shares outperform the broader market. The Russell 2000 advanced about 1%, extending its lead over the S&P 500 and Nasdaq to far in 2026. We are being joined again by Dr. Jaijit, again joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us back here today, and hopefully you can hear a bit better now. Could these sort of businesses and all of this between India and the US build their relationship more and help India with the tech industry?
You know, absolutely. If you even notice, some of the key confidence building measures have been continuing even while the trade talk has been going on. In fact, last year in October, India signed a critical military deal with the US. From 2000 onwards, there has been a series of deals between US and India on very, very critical coordination on the geopolitical side, specifically from the military perspective. And therefore, the US-India relationship has always been on a strong foundation. It's quite apparent that India and US are actually natural allies, and there has been a hiccup with the new administration coming in, and it's a short-term hiccup which was probably done to extract or negotiate a deal which the US administration believes is good for them. But in terms of the foundations for a US-India to move forward, both the sides have always been very positive, and there has been rapid steps that were taken from 2000 onwards. And hence, this will just be a continuation. There was a bit of a blip. If you also notice, the words from the US administration for India has not been as harsh or as intemperate as the words used for other major powers of the world, including the European powers. So that mutual respect exists and will continue. If you look at the trade deal itself, India has promised a $500 billion offtake from the US in the next 10 years, and that's that ensures that India and US are more entwined even from an economic perspective, and therefore there will be many touch points between US and India that will and must open up the access of technologies for both the Indian industrial ecosystem as well as for the Indian military, which is also something which is critical for us. And therefore, there will be a two-way flow of both trade and goods as well as technologies, and that's good for both India and for US.
And with this trade deal, it's been described as a win-win for both India and the US. Are the economic benefits distributed evenly between the two countries?
I think that we can comment on once we get the actual text of the deal. I don't yet see it anywhere in public. So once we look into it, then we will know whether it's evenly distributed. But given the seasoned negotiators on both the US side and the Indian side, I'm pretty confident that the benefits will definitely be evenly seeded. From an Indian perspective, there are also geopolitical aspects and geoeconomic aspects. Obviously, a trade deal is about geoeconomics, but it gets entwined into geopolitics because of the fact that if we get a better deal, then compared to our adversaries in that sense, then we will be able to get a level playing field in that sense. So, and also if you look at it from the perspective of all of those economies which are low-cost economies, India's got the best deal possible. There is a maximum cap of 18% on the tariffs, which is about 3% more than what Europe has got and what Japan has got. And obviously, India is extremely competitive. It's cost competitive, so it can compete with Europe and Japan for the US market. And it has an advantage over countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia, and so on and so forth in accessing the Indian market, in accessing the US market, and therefore it seems to be a good deal for both from the US perspective and the Indian perspective. India is a large, fast-growing market. We are one of the largest markets in the world with the largest population. So it is in US interest that they have a free access to our market. And as for the tweet from the US president, there seems to be a zero tariff promise given by the Indian side, and therefore it clearly is a very good deal for the US also.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya, for joining us here on NewsX World. Ambulances and aid trucks lined up at Egypt's Rafah border